When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching The Meta Show.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Meta Show. Your host here, Dave Archer and Keith Stone. And joining us today is our exclusive guest, Hedliner from PL. Hedliner, thank you for joining us and taking some time to talk to us today. But before we get into talking to Hedliner and hearing everything we need to hear about PL and everything everybody else would want to hear about PL, that kind of thing, I do want to make one thing. We did get a comment after last week's show, Dave. You got an email from the folks that got evicted from the Wormhole and Hard Knocks. Seemed a little salty, a little spicy. I do encourage anybody, if your experience involved directly with any events like that, and you want to send us a message, we'd love to hear from you, but we'd also love to have you on the show and talk to you. And I think I can speak for Dave here when I say, yeah, we like to hear the feedback, but come on and talk to us about it, because we want you to hear the feedback as well, and the rest of our guests.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not PL joining the Imperium. I don't know. We're going to talk to Hedliner about his future plans and what PL is going to be doing here in a minute. But we're going to get a little backstory about PL and everything else before we get into that. So before we get into it, I know our viewers are definitely excited to hear what Hedliner has to say today. Let's go ahead and move into our main story, Dave. Did I get it right?
Right. And back.
All right, so our main story today, we're going to be talking to Hedliner. Hedliner, thank you first and foremost for coming on the show today. Definitely appreciate you accepting our invite, as we'd love to hear from, I know we're goons, and maybe goons and PL haven't had the best of history, especially as of late being in PamFam. It is the headline of the day, as Caffeinated say. Hedliner is the headline of the day. So the first thing, I'd love to just introduce yourself for those of our viewers. I'm sure a lot of people know who you are, but just give yourself a little bit of an intro to those of us who maybe don't know who Hedliner is.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So I'm the PL, currently the PL Alliance leader. I've been in PL for a long time now, some 15, 16 years in various forms. Started playing back at the end of 2006. Have not really taken many breaks in that period, probably 3 extended ones of a couple of months here and there, but primarily played the nullsec game. Started off in Triumvirate, the very first incarnation of Triumvirate. I don't know what version they're up to now. Then moved into an alliance called Cry Havoc. I lived between nullsec and lowsec for a little while, and then when Cry Havoc folded, moved fully into PL. Started off as a sort of a F1 pusher or an FC helper, and then after a little while started running fleets again, like I'd done in Cry Havoc. Stuck at it, and eventually assumed CEO of the corp that I'm in now, the bigger corp in PL, and then took over from Elise Randolph as Alliance CEO back in 2018.
Awesome. And tell us about your experience as the Alliance CEO of PL, which when I started playing EVE Online years ago, PL were the boogeymen of EVE Online. Right? They were the bad guys for a lot of people. And I still think in some ways you guys kind of still hold on to that title. I think maybe Snuffed Out or some of those other groups, maybe Big Eb. I think more Snuffed Out has moved into that role. You call Snuffed Out, they're going to shoot you no matter what, even though you guys have been more aligned with PH. But tell us a little bit about your journey since you've taken over in 2018.
So I mean, PL's not a big alliance, right? So it's not difficult to run as a sort of like from an administrative point of view. And the thing that we've kind of stuck to for a long time is we just like run it as a group of friends who hang out and play video games, and sometimes that's EVE Online, and sometimes it's other games which come and go, be it Battlefield or one of the new cringe Call of Duty games, or more recently we got into sim racing in Formula One as well, and that died out when they ruined the game. So we just try and keep it informal, as laid back as possible. It might be cheap coming from me. For some people in the audience might not agree, but as much as we can, just have a good time. PL's been around for a long, long time now. We've been around the block a few times. We've done all forms of big, small, medium scale wars, primarily in nullsec. So there's no great burning desire to be one thing or another, particularly right now. The alliance has changed shape over the years as well. Unfortunately, we drag around that sort of pre-Phoebe legacy still, where we're sort of benchmarked against a game which no longer exists. So that's a cross we still bear. I tried my best to kind of divorce us from that, but that wasn't successful there. But pretty much like standard mid-scale nullsec alliance, which has been attached to one of the 3 coalitions that exist in nullsec for the last however many years. That's about it. We've really tried to stick to, wherever possible, the medium scale stuff, and we can get into that in a little bit when I think you're going to ask me about what we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years. But that's where we've aimed. That's what we enjoy. We enjoy as much as we can finding the attacking opportunities and scaling up from small to mid.
Yeah, no, I think you're reading my headlines, Hedliner. Like, are you reading my notes? Like, definitely cut me off at the pass here, because the next question I was going to ask you, man. No, you're good, buddy. Next question I was going to ask you was the history of PL. Like, where have you gotten? Like, how have you gotten here today? And I know one of the things PL in my mind, and you definitely can set the record straight for me today. I would compare PL's game style and gameplay more to a Snuffed Out or a Big Ab and that kind of thing. Is that right? Is that kind of the image you guys have tried to go for? A little more of a smaller, mid-scale elite group that likes to punch up, that kind of thing. What are you trying to go for? How has PL evolved over the last few years, especially since you took over in 2018?
I've never been particularly image conscious, which I think a lot of people will agree with. But like more recently, we had a long-standing partnership with the BFL element of Horde, which has taken up a lot of our time over the last couple of years, and that was really focused on being as offensive as possible wherever we could find it, be it deployed to Pureblind, or sometimes a little bit down in Delve, or over in the southeast. Really, using sort of upship doctrines to try and fight where we can, outnumbered against sort of a larger group that maybe flies slightly cheaper ships, but they have more of them. We spend a lot of time doing that, and sort of like being the sort of front running of a larger coalition deployment. A good example of that would be back in like 2023, where we took a contract from FRT to start harassing Pureblind. That kind of it sort of snowballed into a coalition effort over the course of about 12 months, and culminated in sort of like the unpicking of the B2, B3, whatever they were called, coalition, and dismantling their space. But the kind of all of that was built off of the back of a much smaller deployment, which involved daily small ganging, nanos escalating, blopsing, up shipping when we provoke some kind of response, and that kind of slow boiling of that frog, then to allow the rest of the coalition to come along and participate in the much bigger timers once we got them on the board. That's kind of like what we preoccupied ourselves with for the last, like, I guess 3 years, and that's exactly the kind of thing that we really enjoy doing. It gets people really motivated to do that, and so long as we're out making some kind of timer or collecting a few kills along the way, that's kind of the sweet spot we're looking for. Whether or not it's attached to some like grand reputation or not, it doesn't really bother me or anyone else. But so long as we're out doing something, that's fine.
Yeah, you guys. So I guess what I'm hearing is to sum it up, you guys enjoy being like the tip of the spear, going in first, getting everything riled up, and then once it gets bigger and badder, that kind of thing, you're like, you know what? Hey, if you guys have fun with this, we're gonna go find our new project.
Well, no, or just like work with the rest of the team to get the job done, which is what happened in our last couple of major offensive deployments, the successful ones at least.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's all we've ever really done. I'm not as an FC particularly proficient in anything other than attacking. I think that our alliance in general has not got a rich history of defending anything. If you look back to when we had significant self-holdings in Fountain and later Tribute, Vale, and Tenal 6 or 7 years ago, our defense of that was not particularly effective. So, we had a much bigger footprint back then as well. So it was perhaps a little bit harder to manage. But attacking is just. I think that this is one of the real polarizing, points of fighting in Eve, right? Like some people tend to say attacking is easy. Other people say defending is easy and the defenders hold all the advantage. Personally, I'd rather be attacking than defending, just because it's what I've done for so long, and I enjoy the fact that you have like a lot of different options normally to attack in different ways. Particularly now that structures are all over the place, and you depending on what region you're attacking, geography can be really advantageous to people who are attacking. But yeah. Like, it's so long as we can attack something or someone, or I can run a couple fleets here and there, I'm generally content, and so the rest of our guys.
Yeah, no. Futility says in chat, PL goes for the dunk. That's their mantra, and goes on to say, maybe you guys don't take the fairest of fights, and I'll say for one personally, is there such thing as a fair fight in EVE Online? Is anybody fighting fair? If you're fighting fair, I feel like
I
you're
guess
behind the ball there.
if you get with the people that you want to fight and you agree that what you will and won't do, but this isn't like the 1850s, and we don't
I challenge you
shake
to a
hands
duel,
and
sir.
get our fucking quills out and write down what we will and won't do on a piece of parchment, do we? Like, I mean, again, right? You take the fights which you want. And if you the game's not consensual in that respect, right? So like if you generally the rule of thumb that I would apply is if you're being attacked, if you say you're traveling from A to B and someone drops you and attacks you on the way, they're reasonably confident that they can beat you, and you have to decide whether you want to try and escape, cut your losses, stand and fight and maybe die, right? And there's nothing wrong with that at all, right? Like personally, that's what I like most. I like to engineer a situation to the best of my ability that I can attack and have a good outcome. And I think most FCs are wired that way, right? I think, and that's what people want. People want to win ultimately, right?
Yeah, no fight in Eve, no matter the perspective from a line member, is ever fair. There's always some upper hand that someone has. Be it intel from spies, just general other intel, some ally that's about to rock up. Yeah, there is never a true fair fight in Eve, unless you've turned around and gone, I'll fight you with 100 dudes at this time at this place. And even then, some other person's probably going to just rock up and kill you.
Yeah, probably someone like me who just doesn't care.
I've done that before when skirmish
You know-
commanders have arranged fights, and I've just been like, fuck it, I'm just going to kill them all. Like, I mean,
Yeah, and even coming from my background, from a small gang standpoint, you go out into someone's space with your 7, 10 guys, and you go fight. You're like, oh, we're fighting outnumbered, but it's really not fair because number one, you probably know how to play the game better than those new bros you're picking on. Number two, you've comped out and they just come at you with a kitchen sink, so you know how to maneuver around it. So even in that scenario, I wouldn't always say it's fair. Eve again, like I said, if you're trying to fight a fair fight and you're always worried about, well, let's hold this back, let's not field this or whatever, because I want to be fair to these guys, you're probably a little bit behind the ball. That's just my 2 cents on the sense there. And one of the questions I did want to ask you, we had Sapporo Jones on a couple weeks from Test, the excellent leader of Test, who kind of led the whole WWB charge and that kind of thing. And I know you guys were involved in it. What are your thoughts for our viewers? Because some of our viewers are like, hey, PL was belligerent there against us, that kind of thing. What were your thoughts on WWB and then how it ended?
So yeah, we were roped into this grand plan. I really enjoyed it up until I would say probably March or April of 2021. I did enjoy it. I think that was like a perfect storm of things for people who want to like play hardcore. Right? It's like everyone was locked away at home. It was numbers were up. There was nothing else to do, so everyone just met in Fountain, Delve, and Quirius and decided to try and wipe each other out. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed I enjoyed the fact that we could form and fight and constantly try and adapt to, like, you have like 7 fleets on one side and 9 fleets on another side, and you would have like, they weren't all meeting, these fleets that were formed weren't all meeting on one grid. You'd have multiple fights within the same system between different fleets, or multiple fights in the same constellation, and they were all intense in their own individual way. And that was great. I really enjoyed that. What I didn't enjoy was that all of those fleets consisted of Munins and Eagles. I think that really was not great. But CCP finally got rid of those in the guys that they were in. So I did enjoy that. I was not really too suckered in by the whole $1 million battle Titans meeting M2. That didn't interest me that much, because we'd been down that road before, and when we had a similar showdown in UALX against Test back in 2018. We had a couple of a long time ago, a couple of our own PL only sort of Titan catastrophes in Venal and in Fountain and X47, and not that not really so concerned about the outcome, but more that you sort of sit there for 16 hours watching downtime approach, and you get 5 doomsdays off in that time, if you don't die. So for me, that aspect of it wasn't particularly engaging, but the whole fighting around different systems and stuff, that was enjoyable. And my favorite phase of all of that was actually after our Titans and Supers were stuck in M2, and we had to fight back to keep goons in the Imperium forming to simulate that we were going to try and break out, but then we would pivot and start reinforcing the iHub or something like that. That part of it I enjoyed a lot. As for how it ended, I think ultimately, goons and the broader Imperium, but I would say mainly goons, put up a really solid defense. They, the SOV around 1DQ and the defenses that were put in place were set up perfectly, and I guess they did what others couldn't from a defender's perspective, which is just really buy into the fact that when you're called up to get on a fleet and defend the gate, then people really subscribe to that. And you have to commend them for that. You guys wanted to defend 1DQ more than we wanted to come in and take it. So it's a shame after months and months of pushing, but ultimately a well-deserved win for the Imperium.
What I'm listening to here today is, you mentioned, you're like, hey, I wasn't really interested in the giant brawl, super brawl that happened in M2. And that's a surprise for me. And again, I'll admit, hey, I'm learning something today. And you said it earlier, you're not too worried about images, but I think I've always associated PL's just going to drop caps, because, man, I'll be honest with you. When I run into PL in the past in small games and I see them, I'm like, they don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know how to PvP in small game. They just want to bring their caps. But for what I'm hearing, you guys do, and you guys are pretty good at it. As a matter of fact, you guys have been in some ATs, right?
We what, sorry?
Alliance tournaments, that kind of thing.
Well, again, this is where there's it's like there are two sides to this coin. And this is part of why I'm not particularly interested in those like super huge scale Titan fights anymore, because like for me, I feel like I genuinely had the best of super carriers and Titans before jump fatigue, when ranges were longer, when we had more of them than everyone else. And I know other people really did not enjoy that, because we'd be, say, staged in the middle of Malpace after evicting people from the drone regions, and someone would say, "Oh, hey, I was just passing through Syndicate and saw 15 dreads sieging a large tower. Do you guys want to go? We've got the signs." You'd take 14 jumps in 14 minutes, and you'd catch them as they're coming out of their third siege cycle, and then you would jump all the way home, and you'd be done with your 20 dread kills in a 30-minute round trip. And for me, that was hilarious, and and I really enjoyed that. And we had years and years and years of doing that, and now they've fundamentally changed the way that works, and it's not possible anymore. And I'm, as a result, less interested in that particular aspect of the game. But what that did unlock is this like magical world of like, very fluid, small to mid-scale PvP, which I've come to really enjoy. So,
Yeah, and they changed the game because of you guys, right? Because you guys were that was always the meme. Like, you siege, you've got 5 minutes, and you can watch the Sino chain light up across the map because PL's going to be there. Like
yeah,
I said, the boogeyman.
that's the way it was. But I mean, nothing lasts forever, right? Like
Correct.
that type of gameplay was literally edited out of the game. So and then industry changed, and now everyone has supers and titans. So it's kind of like, it doesn't feel as attractive as it once was.
I gotcha. No, hey, listen, I love to hear it. Definitely learning something. I always thought PL was more of we like the big toys, and if it doesn't involve the big toys, we're not as interested. Dave, what are your thoughts? Like, I know you've engaged with PL and shot PL some over the course of the history.
Probably more times than I can count. Yeah. No, they're just one thing I will say about PL on the larger fleet fight thing is, I say the same thing about NC actually. When they turn up, they turn up. It's like a bit of everybody makes fun because that you guys are a bit smaller and that, but when you want to turn up, you turn up and kick some ass. Be it with a smaller fleet in more expensive ships that can kick ass, or up until now, getting numbers from Horde to make your fleets a bit bigger and kicking ass.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are two things there, right? Like, it's the joint effort that we had with the BFL group in Horde. That wasn't them padding PL numbers. That was a true partnership, which was developed over, a 50-50 partnership developed over the course of 3 years, and a very enjoyable period with a lot of success. But there were shared like values there in what we were looking for in terms of the kind of things that people really enjoyed, and what really motivated people, and like I was speaking to just before. But no, to a point, I agree with you. Like, it's when people are motivated, they crawl out of the woodwork, and certainly, like, we saw that in the pure blind deployment, not just from the sort of like doing the groundwork with the small and medium sized fleets, but when we got into the big ones like the 4-A dread fight and stuff. We had a big one in Q-5 as well on New Year's Day in 2023. And there have been other sort of like landmark events along the way between then and now, where you'll see like people people just bite down hard on it. But also, I mean, this is a group that's been together for a long time, right? So people have done their like hyperactivity in phases. We've had some people who have been in the alliance for as long as me, which is north of 15 years now, and when I joined PL, I was a teenager, and I'm now in my mid-30s, and we've had a lot of other people who have been on that same kind of like life cycle where they joined, they played a lot, they went to school, university, then they got a job, they scaled back a little bit, then they had kids, uh, and now they're back again, right? So we've got a lot of people who have come and gone and dipped out, and we turn over like people who have been here for a long time rather than we never really expanded materially post kind of like when they started bringing in things like skill injectors and alphas and stuff. We never really expanded to any great extent. So we kind of the alliance has always stayed around the same size. And people come and go, and like that's fine. Right? I think you'll see in the coming weeks, we'll see some old familiar new faces around as well.
It's good to hear. I mean, I can say, like I said it when we talked to Sapporo and Test, I think EVE Online is a good game and it's an exciting game, and we have more groups that are thriving. And groups like Test and like PL with storied histories in the game and different events, being there and being active and thriving in what they want to thrive in is good, regardless if I'm on the other side shooting or not. It gives me more things to shoot at personally. It looks like we have a little bit of a chat going on in the chat here with a couple people, and I think this is around your like idea where you said earlier, I like to attack, and I think somebody's implying that wherever you're homed out of, if somebody comes and attack it, you're not gonna defend it. Is that true, or?
That's not quite what I said, though, is it? I said that my skill set is not in the defensive realm. That doesn't mean that I won't defend stuff. I think this is a great thing, right? It's like the alliance has changed shape over the years, and there's a lot of people who have, despite never being in the alliance or interacting with it, have strong sort of pseudo expert opinions about what it is, what it should be, how it should, how it functions. I think that this conversation is scrolling through now, having a quick look. It's that's what it smells of to me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't draw too many too many conclusions from that.
Of course. No, of course, and I would encourage anybody who's, I mean, obviously, if you're in Goons, I don't think Goons is the interest going to shoot PL. Wherever PL ends up making their new home, go shoot them and see if they defend it. Go find out. I think Hedliner can speak for you here that you might encourage people to come bring the content to your doorstep, right?
I would never be so provocative. The
Hey, you don't have to jump for it.
The days of my big mouth getting me and my alliance in trouble are well and truly over. I'm slowing down in my old age.
Fair enough. You just can't. Keith said it, not Hedliner. I don't know
Exactly.
what the fuck I'm talking about, so fair enough. All right. So, let's go into. I think a lot of our folks here who are watching, the biggest news that came last weekend. It actually came like 5-10 minutes after we chopped off the show, and we almost spun it back up to announce it as well. PL leaving PanFam, and so I want to get something straight. Pandemic Horde started out. Did they start out as a feeder corp for you guys? Is that how that worked?
I need to be careful what I say here because I wasn't intimately involved in this particular chapter of PanFam's history.
Mm-hmm.
We were deployed in the catch area fighting Brave, and I think they were called the Hero Coalition. And it was, there was a theme emerging where it was like 100 of us and 250 of them plus 100 damping Mauluses. And they weren't even like in one place, so we couldn't just bomb them all away and laugh.
Yeah.
So someone, and I'm gonna choose to pin this on Elise Randolph because I can't think of anyone else. But someone came up with the idea of like, well, they have a new player like environment. Why doesn't someone just like establish the same thing, let it develop, and then that solves the problem, doesn't it? That's my vague recollection of this. I wasn't involved in it. I don't know if that's 100% true or not because it's been over a decade now. But I mean, like, Horde is an entity in its own right. It's grown, it's taken its own direction, it's established itself to be extremely large, powerful, and sophisticated, and that's all down to the work of the people in Horde, right? That's Horde members, the people who have been the long-standing directors, the influence and direction of goblins. It's not really anything to do with PL. Everything that they have achieved is largely down to decisions that they have made. We've been allies with them, sometimes not as closely allied as we have been in more recent years. Particularly at the beginning, we didn't work together very often. That evolved over time. But I see this a lot, like where people sort of I can see why people think that might be the case, that Horde was designed as like a mechanism for sort of feeding new blood into PL. Some people have come across over time, but that's not by design. That's happened organically, and Horde is 100% an entity in its own right, always has been, and stands on its own 2 feet.
So the typing you all heard, by the way, was me messaging Elise asking him the question of how Horde started, because I'm sure he'd have I'm sure he was involved. So if he gets back
Pretty
to
rude
us,
to fact check me live.
I'm not fact checking you. You said you weren't involved, so I was like, I'll just go ask Elise, see what he says.
Dave's going to try to get Elise on the show here in the next 5
I'm
minutes.
surprised he's not watching. He normally is. No, I wasn't fact checking. I was just seeing if he had any more, because he's normally hovering about somewhere watching.
Awesome.
I see. Well, I'm going to choose to believe that that's true.
Please do. So I do have another question for you, man. And I think our chat, I know plenty of folks have asked this question so far as we led up into this. You guys have been close with PH over the years. You guys were one of the, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I'm learning here today as well, Hedliner. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I assumed was this is the case, and this has been great. I'm glad we're having this discussion. But you guys were the founding entity of PanFam, and it was current state, if it's still there, that kind of thing. Is that correct?
I wouldn't characterize it like that either. I think I think PanFam was a union of, I guess, originally PL, Horde, and NC, and it evolved over time to expand and include additional members like Slice and No Value and now more recently like Hold My Probes and other alliances that have come and gone over the years like Decoy and Try and others. I wouldn't credit PL with establishing PanFam either. I would say that was just a natural evolution of the alliance between 3 or 4 of us originally, and certainly like the coalition has been managed and run by the leaders of those alliances rather than by any one individual. More often than not, we may have had like some alliance leaders who have taken a more active or hands-on role in certain deployments, but it's been generally a bit of a team effort, I would say.
No, that's and again, thank you for clarifying that, because I know that's something I've heard over the last few weeks. I never thought much of it. I just always assumed over the years PH was some sort of originally was a feeder. I think I remember running into PH. Kane was with me. Al Kane Highwind, one of our mods in chat, was with me at the time. Horde kicked us out of Delve. We originally lived in Delve at a POS, and then Horde show up, and then Skeleton Crew was there first, and that kind of thing. So, and Lumpy was out there for a little bit, if you remember Lumpy. But so there's definitely a lot of, I think, misnomers or misinformation and that kind of thing out there, and it's great to hear from you, set the record straight there. The next question I have though for you is what's motivating, and this is kind of I think the question on a lot of people's mind. Why now? Why leave PanFam now? What's kind of driven that decision?
There's been a few different things. I mean, the way that the time that I have to commit has changed recently, and I'm more comfortable, playing through, the way that I had described. And also we've done the same things for a long time, and I felt like as good a time as any, right? There's no great time to uproot your alliance and move it from point A to point B, and I'm not a fan of moving, which is kind of ironic given I'm a fan of doing deployments. But
It's a little different.
like, I mean, there's no sensational story behind this. It's like, we've played the game the same way for a long time. It's not a decision that was made solely by me. We got together and discussed it very recently as the CEOs, the directors, some of the people who are intimately involved in helping operate the alliance, and we decided that we wanted to try something a little bit different and mingle with some other people and just set our own tempo for a while. Because ultimately we play in our free time and we want to make the most of that as PL, and we haven't done anything sort of PL centric for quite a long time. That's it really. It's not a particularly interesting story. It's just a decision that we've made at this point in time, and our withdrawal from PanFam is amicable. There's no sort of there's no hard feelings there, at least not from our side. I hope that works both ways. I think from my conversations with the other leadership people, I think that's the case. And we'll go out and we'll do a few different things on our own schedule. That's it. It really is as simple as that. And people are excited to just have a run at that and see where it takes us. It's not like we're gonna reinvent the wheel. We're gonna do lots of the same things that we've always done. We might just do them in different places. I know that's not a particularly exciting answer, and it's probably not what people wanted to hear, and it may be a bit dry, but it really is. It's that simple.
So,
and the result, you'll see when we finish messing around with our administration and our moving, you'll see some fleets. Some of them will be Jackdaw fleets. Some of them will be, something else.
You're gonna roam in dreads. You're gonna roam in dreads, aren't you?
Well, if there's something to use dreads on, yeah, we'll use our dreads. But I'm not gonna. If I happen upon some randoms on a gate, I probably won't just default to using dreads on them. But that's it. We're just turning a page, and we're just gonna make things up as we go along, on our own terms and our own pace.
So, got two questions for you. One of them's from the chat. And honestly, my memory's so bad I can't remember if you mentioned this or not. But did the move of the Imperium have any influence on the decision?
No, not really. I mean, I can see why you might construe it that way. But no, I mean, I haven't really kept up with the movements of the Imperium in recent weeks. I know that you have been pushing hard in the northern direction, but the last time I think I fought the Imperium was a couple of months ago when I was back in Scolding Pass or wherever we were at the time.
And the next question is kind of a timeline question on how the announcements worked, because of course the first any goons heard of it, and I'm sure we're not naive here, you've probably seen it. I mean, you ping all to goons and it's like pinging the entire game. Was Ash's ping to Goonswarm, which came before any announcement of any PanFam executor, because I was already talking to Lady Scarlet about something else, and I immediately asked her, went for the inside scoop, and she was like, no official comment at the moment. So I was just wondering what the timeline was there, that Goons found out and pinged their members before even Horde did, for instance. I know you probably can't speak to what Gobbins did in his timeline, but
I mean, the first point I would make is I'm not in control of when other alliances disseminate information. I know. My assumption is that the Goon ears pick that up from NC pinging. But I gave all the right people the notice that we'd made that decision, and it's up to them to kind of like disseminate it as and when they want to. So I can't really speak to the timing. That all happened on the same day, so there's just a little bit of a lag, I think, because people get to things at different times.
Bit of a latency issue.
Again, I don't think there's maybe a latency issue. My carrier pigeon got lost on the way or something. I don't know. It's but there's nothing. I wouldn't read too much into that either, to be honest.
Let me and Kane brings up. Kane asked a question. I think this is a good question. have you seen any of your has your player base, your core group, have we seen a lot of guys leave because of this and like, hey, you know what, I want to stay out here, stay with PH, or have your numbers, as far as you can tell, stayed the same and this was exciting to go on to turn a new chapter for PL?
I got a pretty good sense of who's where and what people are doing, and I would say we have had one guy who's come to me and said I'm staying. We got into that a little bit. Just I wanted to understand, if there's anything we could do to support him, and in ensuring that was the choice that was right for him. And it turns out it was. He's in a tough time zone. He's on the he's in Australia, and we don't have really many people in that in that time zone. So for him, it was the right decision to stay in the much materially bigger group, because as much as he enjoyed, and he'd been in our alliance for 5 or 6 years, but it's hard to be playing for 2 hours from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. On a weekday before work to catch a fleet, right? Like I empathize with him there. But pretty much everyone who wants to be here is here, and I would say there's a few AFK people who really need to hurry up and decide what they're doing. But other than that, I think we overwhelmingly the consensus is let's just go and see what happens next. I got to get our Discord. That's the overwhelming sentiment, I think.
Let me ask you a question, and it's something I try to do, Hedliner, and like what I've tried to do with some of our episodes in the show. We've had Young QCon, we've had FC roundtables talking about the state of EVE Online and the where content is and that kind of thing. And this is going to go into kind of the next question. It's like, where do you see the future of PL? And I'm sure there's stuff you may not want to say because, hey, you're still, like you said, in the admin. But has some of this like move from, hey, we're going to separate ourselves from nullsec been because you've seen maybe a lack of content? Like I saw some graphs that were thrown my way of, we've seen in low-sec alone where dreads, we've seen a lot more dread kills when you compare it to nullsec and the activity in nullsec, and you feel like, hey, maybe low-sec, maybe that's not where you want to go, but there's more content elsewhere, and where you're at currently is just not doing it for you.
I think like we've been in nullsec for so long. I'm interested to do different things, like that doesn't necessarily mean I want to go and live in a wormhole or something, something extreme like that. But I'd be interested to dip in and out of different parts of nullsec.
PL living in Delvin.
Del, I mean, I've been to Del. There are other regions to go to, right? Del. I've been to Del so many times over the years. But I'm interested. Getting out and about and just seeing what else there is other than sort of being in nullsec 24/7 is interesting. I think it's an interesting thing. And if it doesn't work, then we'll do something else. But just being able to experiment with that kind of stuff. Some stuff that we haven't done for a long time. The last time we were truly doing anything outside of nullsec was nearly a decade ago now. So a lot has changed. The world outside of nullsec is a very alien place to me. So I'm sure there'll be some learning to do there. I'm not committing us to becoming a low-sec entity by any means at all, but just trying different things out will be interesting and good fun, I'm sure.
Young Puke wants you to be in low-sec though. Go live in
I heard he's really
make it great
I don't know
again.
him. I don't know him very well, but I heard he's very passionate about that.
He is just a little bit.
But I don't want to let him down. I don't want to. I'm
None of
sure I'll
us
fail.
do.
I won't fail to disappoint everyone, but I think, you know, just hopping around a bit and trying different stuff is the name of the game.
So I've got it's real quick, and I want to address. Chat's got some questions there. Some of them I think are a little. Yeah, we're not going to. Anything CCP could do to the game to make it more interesting, other than removing jump fatigue. Like for you as a PL director and your removal from, you guys are leaving PanFam. Is there anything that maybe for you, like you're like, hey, I'm going to go explore the game. This is what would make it better.
I think rather than the way I think about it is not so much like what will be best for us or for me, but like when I look at these things, it's like we seem to end up, and again, this is a nullsec thing, but like we seem to end up in these like endless cycles of like there is one or two doctrines which just eclipse everything else, and you end up in these kind of like just protracted or stale engagements where it's like right now it's vultures, right? You know, like vultures have effectively become what eagles used to be, but better. And it's like you've got vultures versus vultures, because if you bring anything else, then you'll probably lose. And it's like that. I think CCP, from my perspective, really needs to have a look at like how they balance ships and not making one specific thing so infinitely better than everything else, because you know there's so many different ships that you can use, but it's like, you know, like armor, well, no one really uses armor ships in nullsec because they suck, right? It's like, you know, but they suck hard because some of the shield doctrines are so much better. You know, I think personally the changes that were rolled out, over the spring of this year, where they rolled back the resist changes, I think that was just stupid. I think that really makes no sense to me at all. I mean, don't claim to be an expert, but that just makes no sense to me at all. It just makes already good ships unkillable in certain respects, and it degrades the quality of like fleet fights. And that, I mean, over time, that's, I guess if you're winning it's great, right? And if you're losing it probably sucks, but like it just, they're not interesting fights, right? It's, you know, it's just one vulture shooting another vulture, or they need to think about the way that they balance ships, because they don't balance ships at the moment. They just buff stuff until it's too good and then they nerf it again. So there's never any balance really at all. It's like, you know, it's just like a seesaw of backwards and forwards. That for me, that's the thing.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I think some of it's like kind of that cost to power ratio, right? Like vultures are, when you look at big picture and what your other options are, you go faction battleships, right, which are pretty strong, but you're spending 2-3 bill easy on a nightmare or a Mercurial, if nightmares seem to be more the flavor,
that's
right?
fine, yeah. I mean, that is fine, and we did that, right? That we did that to fight things like eagles and munins and other things. But again, like when you're talking at this, you know, a really large scale, you can spend as much as you want on a nightmare. It's not going to survive being shot by like
N plus 1,
150.
where you're like, yeah. No, I would agree with you. I don't want to. We could sit here and have a whole other show talking to you, Hedliner, about the changes in even. And I was just more curious, did that drive anything that's happened? And actually, you're the first one I've had on, I think. Dave, you correct me if I'm wrong. I think pretty much everybody else has agreed with the changes. Not saying that, hey, everybody else is right and you're wrong or anything else like that, but it's interesting to hear the other side of the point. Like, hey, no, I don't like the changes.
I would say most people said it's a step in the right direction, but not fully
Correct.
There is what most people have said.
I'm not sure I understand what direction that is, but again, I'm not claiming to be like super smart about this stuff.
It's okay. It's all good. We're not experts either. I just like talking about the game, and it's been a passion of mine for 12 plus years myself. So, you know, the next question I have for you, and we're going to kind of, I'd like to wrap up with this, man. What is what can you give our viewers today any kind of maybe hint on where PL is going to end up, or what you guys want to do, or anything like that? We've talked about it a little bit, but just kind of want to hear your last thoughts on
that. The short answer is not yet,
Okay.
because we haven't agreed the optics of what where we're going, and so it's not going to be like super groundbreaking. It's just going to be putting us in the place that we can do the things that I've spoken through a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd love to say that it's like, we're going back to Amamaki, we're going to drop our own keep star and live there until the end of days, but that's not what's going to happen. The reality will be a little bit more pedestrian, but it will be a place where we can land and just get to work on doing whatever we cook up. I mean, you guys won't have to wait that much longer to find out, and also, like, it's what I would say for an alliance, and that I'm informed that the sentiment generally is that the alliance is completely irrelevant, and nothing we do is of any consequence to anyone. So I would say that don't worry about it too much, because we'll be back to that soon enough.
So my question, and somebody asked in chat, like, and I know you're like, hey, you can't tell us or anything. I am only saying this because our viewers are like, this has been asked several times in chat. Is there an alliance or block or anything else like that you guys have thought about, or are you guys going to stay your own entity?
A little from column A, a little from column B, I guess.
I got it.
My priority is not to be like some power broker, across a coalition. My focus has to be PL and my guys, and investing the time that I have available in them, and what we want to do. That's something I'll hold my hands up and say I neglected that a little. We had a great run of success in the partnerships that we've had over the last couple of years, and I wouldn't change much or any of that, because it's been thoroughly enjoyable with great people, and some great results. But a byproduct of that is that I didn't invest as much of my time in PL as I should have done, and that's what I want to get back to. I owe it to our members to do that.
Can somebody asked in chat, can they hire PL? Dave, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was about to say that. Is there a price?
I don't know. It depends what it is, right? Because you got to be. I feel like people get very misty-eyed when they talk about like contracts and mercenary work and stuff, and you got to be careful, right? You got to take the ones that are not. Don't be too dazzled by the ISK, and you got to take the ones that are actually achievable. Because like back in a long time ago, people would approach us all the time, being like, "I need you to come, wipe these guys out," and it's like, well, we could do, but there's. You got to balance like fun and achievable objectives as well, because if you'll damage your reputation as a hired gun if you keep shooting and missing, right? So I don't know. It depends. People are welcome to reach out anytime if they want to talk.
I'll give you one ISK to attack Horde.
See, this is exactly the kind of like time wasting bullshit that comes in when you say that your services are for hire.
So wait a second. Can the Meta Show get a cut if we give you customers? Like if you come through the Meta Show, like, hey Keith, put us in touch with Hedliner. I want like 10%. Like,
well, Dave, actually, before we get into that, Dave still owes me for some like draw that I won,
really?
And I stepped away.
You stepped away. You were there. You had to be there. You have to be there when they
to brush my teeth because I was about to hit the sack, and I came back and you'd given my prize away. So maybe once we straighten that out, we can talk about cuts of the enormous mercenary income that I expect to receive in the.
Out of everything we talked about today, this has been the most like the biggest news that I've heard. That Dave owes you something. So I think the next PL contract should be just to shoot Dave in every fleet. If Dave's in the market, doesn't matter.
I'll do that for free.
They do already.
There it is. He does already.
Here you go. Okay. Right. Hang on. I've just sent Hedliner a code for, his favorite N+1 bullshit ship, an FNI, for skin.
Oh, it's very generous of
There
you.
we
Thank you.
go. So now we get a 10% cut.
There we go. I'm glad we could solve that. That's what we do on the Meta Show, is we resolve debts, we air out laundry, that kind of thing. But, Hedliner, I honestly want to say thank you for coming on and talking to us today. This has been awesome. I've learned a lot personally about PL and what you guys plan on doing. I'm going to hand it off to Dave. Dave, if you want to round us out here.
Well, we'll go with final thoughts first, starting with our guest, Hedliner. What are your final thoughts?
What, like emotionally or
about everything we talked about, or emotionally?
Oh, right,
you
sorry.
could cry on Keith's shoulder. I've heard he's cuddly.
My final thought. Look, I'm just looking forward to doing some stuff with PL that I've probably parked for way too long. And I think the members have been patient in waiting for me to get back to that and prioritize them for a little while. And I'm looking forward to doing that.
Okay, Keith.
Yeah, no, again, Hedliner, thank you for coming on the show. And hopefully with what we've talked about today in the show today, maybe here in the next month or two, we can kind of do a check-in and do a pulse check of PL and see how you guys are doing.
Wellness check.
That's right. Be like,
poke the corpse after it washes up on.
That's right. Are you guys alive yet? No, I'd love to have you on again though, and chat about give you guys some time to settle in and kind of figure out what you want to do, because it's definitely been a pleasure having you on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I think that, like we discussed in the kind of preamble before you fired up the stream, I think the last time I was on the Meta Show was in 2018 when some angry pseudo junior director removed a cloning module from one of our keep stars. So back on slightly different under slightly different circumstances this time. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yep, and with that, I'd like to say thank you for you coming on. It's nice to have someone from, say, the other side of the fence on the show. We've been trying for a while, and we just get blank answers from everyone else or an excuse. So if anybody watching is from another alliance that's not Imperium affiliated, and you would like your leaders to come and chat like this, just chat. Nag them, because we're always open to it. And with that, that is all from me. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.